Well, it's always interesting to bring on folks in our backyard who happen to take trips down to the border and hear from them. You know, we see the headlines on TV, we see the pictures, we see the images. But what about what's actually happening and what they're seeing that maybe isn't getting reported by the media? Well, we're happy to welcome on and say hi to Dr. Prasanth Reddy. He is running in Kansas's 3rd Congressional District, and he was just down at the border in the Yuma sector down there in western Arizona. So, Prasanth, thank you for being here, and take us through your trip. How was it?
Honored to be here. I love talking to you and your audience. It was eye-opening for me. I do think everybody that's an elected official at some point needs to go down to the border. I was down at the Yuma sector down in Arizona, and it really, for me, let me experience what folks on the ground are going through, right? One of the things that we have to do as docs, and I'm a cancer physician, is we start by listening. And then we get the facts, and then we write a prescription to figure out how we're going to solve the problem. And so the first step is to go down and really listen to the folks who are dealing with the crisis that is an unsecure border. We don't have a nation if we don't have a border.
Mm-hmm. So you were down there. I mean, what did you see? I mean, you saw the headlines. You're just a civilian. You're not an expert in this field necessarily. So you're down there as a learning trip, I imagine, as much as anything. What surprised you being down there on the border?
Honestly, Pete, it is an existential crisis for the country to not have a secure border. And really, I saw 3 elements that really opened my eyes. The first was going and talking to folks, boots on the ground, the folks that are running the food pantries, the local hospital, the women's shelter. It is a humanitarian crisis. We have uncontrolled drugs coming through the border. We have a crisis of human trafficking coming through the border. We have potential crime, including known terror watch list suspects, over 200 over the last several years. This is a national security issue. It's a humanitarian issue, and it's an economic issue. When these resources for folks like in Yuma are being shunted toward this avalanche of folks coming in, well, what happens to the citizens that need access to those food pantries, that need access to those hospital services, that need access to women's shelters? This is a problem, and it's low-hanging fruit. It's not complicated. We have solutions we can implement today, and we've got to do that. If we don't do that, humanitarianly, economically, we've turned every city and every state in this country into a border city and border state. And certainly from a national security perspective, from a crime perspective, talking to the sheriffs down there, this is a big problem, and we have solutions we can deliver day one that we're not doing.
So you talked to the folks down there, Prasanth Reddy running in Kansas's 3rd Congressional District. He was just down at the Yuma, Arizona sector of the border. What are the answers?
There's some simple things, right? Sometimes, again, in cancer medicine, it's a complex disease. Immigration policy in the border can be complex, but we can distill it to the lowest of low-hanging fruit. So what are some simple things that we can do? Number one, we don't encourage people to come through the border, right? We should have a common sense immigration policy. If we have labor needs, then we have a work program. The answer for labor needs is not to have an amnesty program. That is not the solution. So if we have labor needs in the country, whether it's, for manual labor and hospitality service or engineers, we look at our visa situations, we look at work programs. That's how we solve that problem. When we look at a crime problem, what we need to do is secure the border. Is the border the be-all, end-all, and that's going to take care of everything? No, nobody's saying that. Is it part of the solution? Absolutely. It's the lowest of low-hanging fruit to have a barrier to prevent people from crossing the border.
I mean, it is. And, on top of that, you look at the fentanyl issue, and that impacts us here in the 3rd District because, as you noted, everywhere now is a border town. Everyone's getting flooded with fentanyl. Wealthy neighborhoods, poor neighborhoods, white, black, doesn't matter. Everything in between is getting impacted.
It is absolutely true, and this issue is affecting our young people. I have friends who've lost their kids to fentanyl. It is here. This is not a theoretical problem. It is already here. We need to take action now.
But I'm hearing the politicians here locally talk about the fentanyl issue, and they want to do something about it, saying Kansas City, and the city council is trying to take up steps to help the fentanyl crisis, but they won't say anything about the border. I don't know if your experience was any different being down there, where fentanyl came up in the conversation, but we all know China, Mexico flooding the U.S., right?
It is absolutely true, and there are bills at the federal level that have been brought up. We have to support our local law enforcement folks that are down at the border, Border Patrol. So the Secure the Border Act, H.R. 2, was voted down by a number of Democrats, including our current incumbent, Sharice Davids. That act would have funded our Border Patrol agents. It would have ensured construction of the border wall and supporting the border wall surveillance with other technologies such as drone technology. Mm-hmm. And we would have ended policies such as catch and release. These are not, controversial things. These shouldn't be controversial things. These are common sense solutions that would absolutely positively impact the fentanyl crisis.
Mm-hmm. So now, you look at Kansas City maybe has less of these problems, but, you look at New York, San Francisco, some of these cities that claim they were always happy to be sanctuary cities, now suddenly they are, and they're saying, whoa, this is too much. What do you make of that?
Well, some of us knew this a long time ago.
Yeah.
Right? And what's happened is now we're just seeing the proof in the pudding that these policies have now turned every city and every state in the country into a border city and border state. And so now that they're seeing what's happening, don't take our word as a partisan issue. This is not a partisan issue. This is an issue that every American, every citizen in the country should think about. How do we ensure securing our border so that we have a nation? You can go look up what a nation is in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. Mm-hmm. Nations are defined by borders. And if we don't have a border, we have to ask ourselves, do we have a nation?
So you think this will hit home in the 3rd District, and you think that this could backfire on your potential opponent, the incumbent?
I absolutely do. Another thing I would tell you is that because of the humanitarian issues, the economic issues, the national security issues, one of the things that more recently I've realized is, for us to secure the American dream, we have to secure the border. If we do not, the American dream will be put at risk for future generations.
Prasanth Reddy, I haven't heard it put that way. Dr. Prasanth Reddy, he is running in the 3rd District here in Kansas. Of course, that thing will be picking up steam here come 2024. So, Doc, we appreciate you being here. Thanks for sharing your border trip with us on KCMO.
Thank you for the time, Pete.
You bet. Prasanth Reddy on 95.7 FM. Good to have him on the show.